Have you ever been so moved by a film that by the end of it you got up out of your seat and clapped for 23 minutes? So connected with the art and the other people around you experiencing it that you engaged in gratitude for a very long time. The prolonged standing ovation is very common in the world of big film festivals. Every year we see footage of the cast, crew and audience all standing and clapping and crying together. The Venice Film Festival has this year broken its own record for longest standing ovation with the Voice of Hind Rajab. Images of the cast and crew and audience all hugging each other and embracing in this mass gratitude and outpouring of emotion have been all over the news and the feeds of cinephiles. So what is it that inspires people to take part in such a long period of praise and emotion? The standing ovation originated in ancient Rome as the Ovation. This was a ceremony for a general who achieved noteworthy but less grand than a triumph victory in war. By the 1800s, the practice had found its way to modern entertainment, starting out in theatre and finding its way to film, where it's now considered a high form of praise. In Europe, there are 3 big festivals: Cannes, Berlin, and Venice. I've been to all 3 of them, and I can tell you, the Germans do not entertain this. They do a standing ovation, but not that long. Ich habe keine Zeit. Cannes and Venice, however, are known for these long, intense sessions of praise after each film. It happens at every single one of their premieres, and notably at Cannes, they have a camera team who get right up in the faces of the celebrities, of the cast and the crew and the director, and they linger there for a really long time whilst the standing ovation is going on. It has become an ongoing joke how uncomfortable it must be to be standing there with the camera in your face. And every year we get a new set of clips of another celebrity finding it awkward. In general, the premiere standing ovation gives us lots of interesting cultural moments. When Brendan Fraser made a return to acting in the film The Whale, his standing ovation was shared around the internet for being so sweet. For a lot of people, it was extremely nostalgic seeing him in the film. I went to see it at Venice, and just hearing his voice in the opening frames of the film immediately took me back to my childhood, and I was so happy to see him doing well. In the clips you can see he's being showered with love, and he's taking it so bashfully. You can tell that he's genuinely overwhelmed with all the praise and attention. That's an absolutely beautiful example of a film festival standing ovation, and we get these every year. When I went to Venice Film Festival, I attended the premiere for Tar, and this is my footage of Cate Blanchett receiving a standing ovation for about 10 minutes. We were definitely contained. At film festivals, no matter if something is a premiere or not, there's usually applause at the end of the screening because you're there to celebrate cinema, you've just watched something, whether it was good or not, and you are politely applauding the fact that someone achieved creating their film. Even if something is not to your taste, usually you can appreciate that it was really difficult to make and the filmmaker has achieved something pretty significant by getting it along to a festival. So you just take part in a collective appreciation. One of the worst premieres I've ever been to, because I didn't enjoy the film, and apologies if it's someone's favourite film out there, but it really wasn't for me, was Seneca by Robert Schwenke, starring John Malkovich. Seneca is an absolutely horrendous film that portrays Seneca's last moments in life, and it's extremely drawn out and it's not very interesting. The characters speak in English, but they speak as if they're using Latin, so all of the sentences are really drawn out.
A knot strangles it down. or you fall off a cliff, splat, onto the rocks. Well, however you go, even if it is a ghastly thing, at least you die fast. How can you not be embarrassed, having dreaded something your entire life, which, bam, is over in a second? Far better to imagine and embrace doom before it arrives so that it ceases to terrify. And kids, drink up. It's later than you think.
And when the death comes around, it takes forever to get to the point. You keep thinking that the film is going to end, and it just keeps going, and it has nothing more to say. I watched it at the Berlinale with John Malkovich in attendance. It was not well received in the room, and yet we clapped. People left feeling quite uninspired by this film, and I think it got absolutely slated the next day in the press. So maybe that applause was just one moment where the team could feel like, hey, we achieved something. We made this film. Again, it is a total politeness thing. It is just down to you're there and you don't want anyone to feel like they necessarily ruined your evening. It's very in the moment and you're just going with the flow. I can't say that I wanted to clap it, honestly, but when you're in the room like that, what are you going to do? It definitely wasn't the heartiest cheer I've ever heard, but you want to be polite and you don't want to ruin the film premiere for everyone. When a film is extremely good and moves people in a way more than being entertained, then the standing ovation becomes something beyond protocol and politeness and becomes a collective experience. The Voice of Hind Rajab portrays a 5-year-old girl who was killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. It's an extremely poignant story about something that has been going on for a very long time, but maybe at its most exacerbated right now. And it's a very brave thing to portray on a human level and on a filmmaking level. It's an extremely complicated situation, and so focusing on one individual within it can help people comprehend the horrors of war. And perhaps being in the room whilst experiencing the Voice of Hind Rajab with a group of people around you who are all coming to the same understanding can become extremely emotionally overwhelming. Perhaps there was a higher level to the standing ovation that wasn't just about the film in front of them. It was about humanity communicating with itself through art. Maybe the film brought an understanding to events that abstractly in the news and in the real world can feel far too complicated to understand. Maybe there were elements of grief that we've never felt able to tap into when we see images that we're removed from, that suddenly came to the surface when faced with the situation so clearly and beautifully in film. It's possible that standing together and clapping and crying for 22 minutes or 23 minutes was a catharsis beyond just watching a film. And in a bizarrely beautiful way, the film has received attention because of this standing ovation that it may not have got otherwise. I think it's clear that it's a very powerful film, but certainly this has put it in a bit of extra spotlight that now makes people want to see it because of that. There's an element now where you might want to watch this film because it broke the standing ovation record at the Venice Film Festival. And there's a part of it where, now that you know that happened, the film itself is something that really speaks to you. Maybe you watch this film in the cinema and perhaps there will be some applause at the end of the screening. Maybe you'll watch the film at home and it'll bring a tear to your eye. Will it make you stand up for 23 minutes and clap? Who knows? No matter what, it sounds like The Voice of Hind Rajab is a very powerful watch, so maybe it'll compel you to do something like buy it on DVD or recommend it to a friend or post your review on Letterboxd. Whatever you decide to do to react to it is your own personal standing ovation, and that is how powerful cinema can be.